Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie Dolval, and I am the Finance and Development Manager at Junior Achievement of Northern Nevada. And I'm pleased to be interviewing Dr. Miko Yokoi today. She's going to tell us a little bit about what she does and what her career path looked like. Good morning, Miko.
Good morning, Melanie, and thanks so much for having me and inviting me to be a part of this series.
Let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you grew up and where you went to high school.
Sure. So I grew up in Southern California, Ventura County, and for those that are familiar, Oxnard, which is, I think, like 10 to 13 miles of beach along the coast, so kind of between Santa Barbara and Santa Monica. And our town was really big in agriculture at the time, so there were lots of, the Oxnard brothers were lima bean farmers, and there were lemon groves near my high school, and I went to Oxnard High School. And I'm the oldest of three, and we grew up in a single income family. My dad worked for Hostess, and my mom stayed at home. And I was a competitive tennis player growing up. So that kind of encapsulates everything up until college. Busy on the weekends with tennis tournaments. And yeah, the beach was close, but I actually didn't go that often. One regret.
Oh, I was going to interject and say I know how important sports are for developing the team cohesion. Has that been a big help for you in your career?
Oh, definitely. I started playing tennis pretty competitively right off the bat. I started when I was 6. And before that, I did all styles of dance, tap ballet, and Highland Scottish dancing. And then, unfortunately, I did reach a point of burnout with tennis. My family thought it was going to be a avenue for college scholarship for me. And by the time I got to the last few years of high school, I was just so burned out. Um, I actually wasn't playing for fun anymore. It got to be a job. And then the last few years of high school, I started doing other things. I was on the swim team. I played water polo. And then I even tried cross country running, which I think I was the slowest on the team, but it was fun.
Um, so what did you do after high school?
So since a young age, my family was tried to be very influential in my career path. And so I had one of the families that was, well, are you going to be a doctor or a lawyer my whole life? And I didn't think I wanted to stand in a courtroom arguing and being angry was kind of what I saw a lawyer was going to be doing. And so I thought, yeah, I like sciences and I wanted to go to medical school for a long time. So I took all the honors and AP classes and tried to prepare myself that way. And then when I took all my standardized testing scores, I actually wasn't a stellar standardized test taker. So I think my extracurriculars and the clubs that I was involved in, and I was a president of the California Scholarship Federation Club and in National Honor Society. And I think having some of those extracurriculars probably helped. So when I did apply to college, I didn't have the best test scores, but I think I had more of a well-rounded person, I guess. And then I forgot what your question was, but in applying for college, I wanted to get out and see somewhere new. Our family didn't have the means to really travel much growing up, and I hadn't really gone many places. And money was tight for school. And so I applied all over the place, and I ended up going to a small liberal arts school in central Maine called Colby College. And I was so fortunate to get a really nice scholarship from them that helped me pay for a lot of books and room and board, and it ended up being cheaper for my family than me staying in state and going to a UC school. So that was great.
So that's an incredible story because that shows that you don't have to have the best test scores. As long as you're well-rounded and you have a lot of extracurriculars, it's a balance that a lot of admissions departments are looking for, is that balance that makes you a well-rounded student.
Yeah, and we thought about trying to find the money to do like a SAT prep course and such, but we just didn't have the money to do that. And so I took the SATs. I think 2 or 3 times. Then I took the ACTs twice, and I never really got a better score. And so well, I was fortunate to have lots of choices on colleges, so it worked out okay.
Well, that's incredible. I'm glad that worked out for you. Oh, my next question is, what does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Let me go back to college just for a second. I was
oh,
a chemist, so I went into college thinking I'd be a biology major. And even though the school was only 1,800 students at Colby, the biology classes was one of the largest with a couple hundred students. And I just kind of got lost in that. And the chemistry department, because, you know, declaring myself kind of a pre-med focus, there were a lot of classes that I had to take. And I got to know the chemistry faculty, and there were only 8 majors my year. Uh, in the chemistry department. So I ended up really liking that. And then I thought medical school was the way to go. And I was just sophomore year very stressed out and thinking about how the stress was never going to end with MCATs and med school and matching for medical residency and then having a high stress job and being on call. And so I ended up changing my career path and deciding to go to optometry school instead, which I saw as being a lot more flexible because growing up, my optometrist had one of them had been a mayor of my town, and the other one had been some sort of local politics representative also, and they had hobbies and they did things. And I thought, hey, this might better be, you know, a better balance of the job is here and then, you know, the rest of life and hobbies and friends and everything. So I ended up changing my focus and then applying to optometry school and getting in.
that's incredible. We talk at Junior Achievement a lot about deciding your career path, thinking about what you want your whole life to look like, not just your job. Some people want to make a lot of money, and there's a path for that. But some people want to get involved in local politics. Some people want to spend a lot of time with their families, their extended families, or their future children, that sort of thing. But deciding what you want your day-to-day life to look like before you decide what you want to be when you grow up, and deciding that career path is a really important point to think about. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, definitely. So a typical day for me, first off, optometrists can be, they have so many different settings they can work in. So a lot of people think about the private practice, and then there's being an employee at a private practice. Many hospitals or VA hospitals or Indian health centers or neighborhood health centers or community health centers can also employ optometrists. And then some optometrists sign a lease where they work alongside a corporate center like a iMart or a Lens Crafters or a Pearl Vision. Let's see, some people even have mobile clinics where they start their own business and they have a van that they drive to rural communities. Optometrists can also be optometry professors. They can go into research and drug development for eye diseases and eye care. Let's see what else. They can be consultants to contact lens companies or other instrument or kind of the machinery that we use. There's optometrists also that are on the development boards for the electronic medical record programs. So there's kind of a pretty wide range. It's not just having your own office. So it depends on the setting you work in, what your typical day is. I've worked in a lot of different settings, and currently I'm working as an employee for another optometrist, so I don't have to worry about running the books and looking at the profit margins. I'm more of a worker bee, so my typical day is I show up in the morning and then I have a schedule printed up, so a list of patients. And one thing I've really learned that I love about my job that really matches well is it's like a checklist that I have to do that day. Like, these are the patients I see, and then there's a lunch break. And then these are the patients I see, and then I go home. And I don't have a lot of work that I can bring home. And I really like that because I don't feel like it infringes on my family life and my home life. Occasionally, there might be a report our big referral I need to write, or sometimes if I'm really tired, I'll leave one chart to like the next morning. But I usually finish up my work for that day, sign all the charts, and then work is done. Some places do have an on-call number, so if somebody was having an eye emergency, which there are only a few, like a retinal detachment or an infection or a foreign body in the eye, things like that, we would go in after hours or weekends for, and those calls come, but not that often. So there's a pretty good balance between leaving work at work and then being able to schedule fun time with friends after work and weekends and family and everything.
It sounds like in the field of optometry, you can decide after the education process how much of your life you want to devote to the office and to your practice or to somebody else's practice. So you
Yes.
don't have to narrow it down before you go into school. You can kind of keep your options open until after you graduate and start the first step in the career process.
Definitely. And there are lots of women that, work full time and then decide it's time to start a family and then might go and drop to 2 days a week or 3 days a week or take a longer leave of absence for maternity leave and then come on as just a fill-in doctor, somebody that covers people when they're on vacation. So there is a lot of flexibility. And I just want to go over one thing. A lot of people get confused between what an optician, an optometrist, and an ophthalmologist is. And so just real quickly, the ophthalmologist has the 4-year college degree and then goes 4 years to medical school where they learn all about the body. And an ophthalmologist, when they're in medical school, they don't know if they're going to end up being a pediatrician or an ophthalmologist or a cardiologist. And so then they do a residency varying, I want to say like 1 to 3-ish years to figure out a specialty. And then they become a general ophthalmologist. And then they can even go on and do what's called fellowship training to become specialized in glaucoma ophthalmology or cornea ophthalmology. So that's the ophthalmologist who is the MD. And then the optician is the person that helps select eyewear for the client based off of their desires, their needs, their facial structure, what fits well. They also help with lens selection, the types of materials and treatments and coatings, and then do the adjusting on glasses. And then optometrists are in the middle. So optometrists overlap some, in that some optometrists might help with glasses if they work in a rural setting. And optometrists can treat some eye disease, just not do surgeries in most states, but some states optometrists can do some laser procedures. But optometrists are the ones that are doing the exam for glasses, contacts, and treating eye disease up to their level of comfort in their scope of practice. So even though I'm an optometrist, I still monitor people for cataracts and macular degeneration, glaucoma, and other eye diseases. But if it got to a point where they needed surgery or it was advanced beyond my level of knowledge and clinical comfort, then I would send it up to the ophthalmologist. So it gets kind of confusing because an optician with the glasses, they might just get on the job training and just have a high school diploma versus the full-blown medical MD. And then what I have is a 4-year bachelor's in anything as long as you do the prerequisites. So I did chemistry, and then a 4-year optometry degree where you get your doctor of optometry. And then there's an optional residency year that I did in pediatrics.
Really? So you did a residence in pediatrics?
I did. So I spent a year after 4 years of optometry school. I spent a year with a college of optometry in Oregon, where I focused on pediatrics, visual rehabilitation, and what they call vision therapy. So kind of like physical therapy for the eyes when there's problems with eye tracking or eye movements or eye focusing, things like that.
So you had a very long and interesting path even before you started working in the field.
I did.
Um, I think that's very exciting because what I focus on when I ask people about their jobs is how long they spent in school and how much they loved it, and how that helps their growth, their career growth, and also their own developmental growth.
Yeah, so mine was 9 years after high school. And then, and interesting because you say, I think in counseling at the Junior Achievement, you probably talk a lot about how things can change and maybe you don't really know what you want to do at that point. And so when I did my residency, I did really like kids. And when I first moved to Reno, my first job here was really focusing on pediatric eye care. And then my career took some twists and turns. And then I ended up working at the Reno Sparks Tribal Health Center with the Indian Colony, where I focused more on eye disease for 7 years. And now I'm kind of back to just comprehensive, general care again. So things can change and you just got to roll with it.
That actually brings us into my next question. Um, which is, how has your professional and personal life changed with social distancing?
So a lot has changed. On the optometry side, optometry offices actually closed for routine care for about 2 months. And so you could only go in if it was an absolute emergency. And you had to call in and make an appointment for that. And then there was extra, everybody's wearing masks and sanitizing the rooms a lot more, and making sure that they've sat for a certain amount of time after patients have been in there. And so kind of the typical medical office precautions. And a lot of optometrists and staff at optometry offices were furloughed during the time because there are a lot of small businesses. And while some offices got the PPP loans, I don't know that all did. And so the business owner of the optometry office, who's generally the optometrist, had to make the decision of, should I stay open and pay my employees, or should I, keep my employees on, or will I get this loan, or should I furlough my employees and see if they can qualify for unemployment and then hire them back? So there's been a lot of uncertainty. And then now that optometry offices are open for routine care again, it's trying to gauge again, as the practice owner, are people going to come? How busy am I going to be? How many staff do I bring back on? So there's been a lot of changes in my industry and profession. And then on a personal side, I've had very little time with friends. I've done a few outdoor social distance small group gatherings, and I've been reading a lot at home. So I've been trying a few new recipes. I don't have any kids, and I know that people with kids have a lot of challenges with daycare and schools being out and being able to work from home. And, while the offices were closed, I really can't work from home. And so I've had a lot of time on my hands to read my stack of books and try recipes from the New York Times newsletter and try to enjoy some of the quieter times of life.
It sounds like you're taking advantage of some of the few advantages we have due to this shutdown.
Sure.
The next question is my favorite. How can somebody prepare financially for something unexpected, such as the coronavirus?
Well, I think that's a great question. So I was very fortunate to receive scholarships for undergrad, but there really weren't scholarships for optometry school or medical style school. You just take out a lot of loans. So while I did go to a lot of school and I had good earning potential, I graduated school with about $200,000 of student loan debt. And I finished my residency. It was the end of July in 2018. And I think I made it to about Thanksgiving when my mom said, "You need to start planning for retirement." And I freaked out. I said, "Mom, I'm worried about making my student loan payments. What do you mean I need to open up a retirement account and meet with a financial planner?" And that was really overwhelming to me, but it's one of the best things I did, because at the time I wasn't as educated about finances in general. And something for your students to look up is compound interest. So I'm probably not the best one to give the definition, but even if you start out saving like $20 a month when you're 20 years old, that's a lot better than saying, "Oh, I can't save money until I'm 30 years old, but I'm going to put a lot more in per month," because of the way it grows and into bigger money. So compound interest. So I'm very thankful that my mom did really pressure me to figure that out, because if I had waited to just start saving for retirement after I finished paying off my student loans, I still wouldn't have started because I still owe about 40,000 on those student loans. But you have to look at the interest rate that you're paying, and it gets complicated and it sounds overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming, but I think it's something that as soon as you can start looking at saving, even just a little bit will matter a lot for down the road, and that you never know what's going to happen. I had a shoulder surgery this year that put me out of work for a few months, and you can't really plan for that because you don't know what's going to happen with your health and your body and your ability to work. And then there was COVID that nobody really thought to plan for, except maybe preppers or something. So I think there's always an unknown, and whatever that rule of saving 3 months salary in a savings account, or I'm not sure what the general rule is, but I think looking into having some savings, even if it's just a little bit, will make a difference down the road, because you never know.
I'm glad you brought up compound interest. That is something that we go into close to the 5th grade conceptually, and we don't have our students calculate it quite yet at that point, but it is something we bring up. And if I can just tell our students something that I think is really exciting about your financial life, is you are a second-time homeowner.
Oh yes,
True?
second-time homeowner. Yeah, I had been renting a house with some friends, and it was just time for me to have my own space. And I bought a house, and at the time one of my colleagues said, "You're buying too late, it's not going to be a good investment." And I bought in 2013, and when the prices were really low, it was like 2009 I think to 2011. And I qualified for a loan much bigger than I wanted to spend, and I thought that was crazy. So I bought a home that was reasonable and suited my needs, but wasn't I didn't want to be house poor with a huge house mortgage. And when I ended up selling it, I think it was 3 years later, I ended up making money, a lot of money on the sell. And so that helped me be able to be a second homeowner. And that money has now helped finance some of the times that I've been out of work. So
Well, congratulations and great job with your investing and with your investing in your home.
Thank you.
I think that's a great lesson. Oh, so going back to COVID and the coronavirus, have you seen anything positive come out of these challenging times? So we did talk a little bit about the positives that you've had, having a lot of time to get through your reading material and things like that.
Yeah, I would say those have been the positive for me. Also, kind of as a joke, you don't have to worry about having something in your teeth.
Very nice.
Which is something, working this far away from people, you worry about what you had for lunch and your afternoon patients. So you don't have to worry about that. But I think it's just, as a society, given us time for reflection, and maybe, I know it's been very stressful for a lot of people with lots of different circumstances, particularly people with children in daycare or elders that need care. But regardless, I think it's given me, time to sit back and reflect on what I want from life, and what I want with my time on this earth, and who do I want to spend my time with, and what's really dear to me. And I think having time, even though a forced time to think about that, has been a jewel of this period.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you have any words of wisdoms for our students as they think about their career path?
So I think the biggest thing is, I'm a big planner. So I think my words of wisdom would be, always have a plan, ... It's okay if the plan changes. So we're going to learn more about ourselves through school, and a lot of people have midlife career changes or go back to school. And I think that as long as you always have a plan, that will get you on the right path.
Thank you, Dr. Yokoi, and thank you for sharing with our students today. So in parting, I wanted to say thank you, which I did. And I also wanted to tell our students that this is a career speaker series. And should they have any questions or comments, they can get in touch with us at Junior Achievement. And I'm going to stop recording. And I want to wish you a very wonderful day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.